This is my first dedicated video on YouTube, so bear with me, as my fiancé and I have been fans of other YouTubers who read stories such as Mortis Media, Lazy Masquerade, and B-Busta, among several others. I decided to dip into the territory with my own narrations. Seeing as the two of us like to fall asleep while listening to their stories, I intend to give a somber experience with my narrations for others who enjoy doing so as well. With that out of the way, onto our first set of stories. So, I'll put this into perspective. This happened a couple years ago, back in 2016, when Pokemon Go was still all the craze, and it was common to see other people walking around strange areas playing it. I, myself, went out at strange hours looking for Pokemon, and never really considered my surroundings very much. I learned pretty fast that it only takes one time for something to happen, even within the decent neighborhood where I lived. Anyway, my cousin was visiting for a few weeks that summer, which typically happened every year. He also happened to be into Pokemon Go. We both spent many hours of the night going out into the night and searching for good stuff within the game. As you can imagine, we never really thought anything of it. That all changed very quickly one night, around 11 p.m. Despite what I previously said about not thinking anything of going out around midnight, I'm usually pretty cautious. It began with some sort of rare Pokemon that came up on our nearby map. I told my cousin, and naturally, he was intrigued as well. We were in my room and I told him I'd go outside and look for it. He replied that he would be out in a couple minutes. Some extra information. We lived in villas on the corner of two streets. Fairly nice places, but very poorly lit, not to mention the many trees to the back of the villas. My patio had a gate that led to our driveway. Anyway, as I walked up, I turned to the right, heading east. Down the dead-end road I walked, face glued to the phone. I elected to turn the corner down the other street, only it was much darker. There was no moonlight that night, and the cloud cover didn't help the situation. I'd only been down that road for about 10 minutes or so, and was now on my way back. For some reason that I can't explain, I lifted my head away from the game to see someone standing behind me. At this point, though, I didn't realize the true potential for the danger I was in. It was dark, real dark. The person was dressed in all black from head to toe. I couldn't make out what their face looked like due to him having a hoodie pulled over. Keep in mind that it's summer, so even though it's dark out, this is in Florida. It's very warm here. This still didn't register though, because I thought it was my cousin, the one who said they'd be out shortly to join. The guy had a phone in his hand, but its brightness was too dim. I couldn't really make out any details. Since I assumed it was my cousin at the time, I decided to call out to him. "Brandon, did you find it yet?" There was no answer. "Hey, you haven't walked far enough. Keep going," I said as I stepped closer. But something didn't feel right. As I called out to him, he looked up at me, but again, no answer. It was at this point that I knew it wasn't Brandon. I felt increasingly uncomfortable, as I'd expect a normal person to say something along the lines of, "You've got the wrong person," or, "What? Who are you?" He had been facing me and standing still the entire time. I began to wonder how long he'd been following me. I called out one more time, "Brandon, is that you?" Again, no response. My chest tightened, and I felt my whole body tense up. After that last call out, he began to walk towards me. First, beginning with a normal pace, but then began to rapidly pick up speed. I turned and began a speed walk. As I picked up my pace, so did he. By this time, his phone was off, and it seemed like all attention was aimed right at me. While my walk rapidly turned into a sprint, I could hear those heavy footsteps gaining behind me. By this time, I was nearing the corner I lived on. I ran as fast as I could, scared to death that I'd fall. His presence became even closer. When I turned the corner, I frantically ripped the gate open, not even allowing time to close it as I dashed straight to the door. Luckily, it was still unlocked. And in that small frame of time, I could sense that he was right at the gate, right before the patio. I quickly bolted right through the entrance to my house and locked every lock on the door. Although I knew it wasn't my cousin, I still held hope that it was him. I hoped he was just pranking me. I had to know. I nervously walked into my room to see if he was there. Sure enough, he was. I was so terrified that I could barely get any words out. We both tried sleeping that night, but being right by a window, we both had trouble falling asleep. From that day on, until I moved, I never again went outside late in my neighborhood. We both still often wonder who that was or what he might have done if he caught up to me. But these are things I take comfort in never knowing. So, mysterious hooded man, let's not meet again. I should start this off with a bit of background information. I have bad anxiety, and I go on walks to calm myself down. On this specific night, I felt as though I was being watched. Whenever I feel like this, I will pull my phone out and go to the front-facing camera to see what's behind me without alerting the person that may or may not be there. I did this, and sure enough, someone was there. So I took 3 right turns to test and see if he was following me. He was. While in the moment, I didn't know what else to do, so I walked towards my house. I thought all was well until I discovered a camera that was placed directly outside of my window. So creepy guy that put a camera outside my window, let's not meet. Backstory. This happened when I was around 9 or 10 years old. I'm 26 now. My family and I lived in a small town and on 5 acres. All of our neighbors had more than 5 acres, so it's like a large neighborhood. Lots of fields. We also had to go down a long gravel road in order to get to our house. But anyways, along with this story. So my mom, my brother, and I are driving back to our house from the grocery store. We get on the road that leads to our neighborhood, and my mom notices this guy following us. They were driving kind of aggressively, and my mom, being paranoid by the situation, thought I was weird. The guy kept aggressively tailgating us, and it was freaking my mom out. So, she sped up and tried to get to our house as fast as we could. We get inside the house, and my mom grabs the phone and starts to call the cops. She looks out the window, and the dude is stopped directly in front of our mailbox, just chilling there. My mom is super freaked out at this point and is yelling out the door to this guy. She screams that she's calling the cops and that he needs to leave now. The cops show up and we check out the mailbox. We open it to find a shotgun shell inside. The guy just left a shotgun shell in our mailbox. So, creepy road rage guy, let's never meet again. I just wanted to say thank you for taking the time to listen to the stories within that video. The stories may have been tweaked a little bit. They're from the LetsNotMeet subreddit. I tweaked them a little bit to make them more narrative friendly as far as being read out loud. Again, this is my first video, and the stories chosen were rather tame this time around, I know, but I want to hear what you think. Comment below and let me know. Did you like them? Did you hate how I read it? Let me know. I'm curious. I'd like to try to fit in with this niche YouTube community, so any feedback is definitely appreciated. If you enjoyed this, feel free to subscribe. I plan on continuing with this and seeing how it goes, seeing if people like this. Of course, if you have any creepy stories of your own, you're more than welcome to send them in, and I can read them out loud on the channel. If you're interested in that, the email address is anothertale.stories@gmail.com.